the people are ignorant of the greatest threat that faces their civilization, then we will not act to protect against it. As Ambassador Cooper has known, we've known about this for decades, and yet nothing has been done. Nothing has been done to protect the electric grid and the civilian critical infrastructures upon which we all depend to survive. The EMP Commission, on which I served as Chief of Staff, calculated that if there was an EMP from the sun, or an EMP from North Korea, or EMP by sabotage using non-nuclear weapons that caused a nationwide blackout that lasted a year, which is an entirely plausible scenario, up to 90% of our population would die from starvation, disease, and societal collapse. We'd have firestorms in cities from exploding gas pipelines. You know, we've got 100 nuclear reactors in this country that only have enough emergency generating power to run themselves and keep their nuclear reactors cool for 7 days. And after 7 days, 100 reactors would go Fukushima, spreading radioactivity everywhere. But most threateningly of all, you know, we only have a 30-day supply of food in the whole country to feed 330 million Americans. 30 days of food at normal consumption rates. In 72 hours, the food begins to spoil because the emergency generators run out of fuel to keep the food temperature controlled and cooled. You know, we couldn't figure out how to keep 330 million Americans alive with no food and no water, which stops immediately. You need massive amounts of electricity to keep food and water, provide water to the cities and to keep water going.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, did General Qasem Soleimani work with directly Obama and his minions to orchestrate the bolstering of Iranian militia activity in the Middle East that was meant to destabilize the region and over time was used to infiltrate our country, our borders, with massive threats to our national security? You guys are going to want to stick around and check this out. We're going to take a deep dive into all of that plus a whole lot more. Hi, my name is Craig. Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. Look, I always start by saying thank you if you've hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done it yet, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. We always go and check the Q boards. Q post 3774 is where we left off. Interestingly enough, as Q told us something big was coming and something big has happened, Q hasn't posted since. We've seen this major set of events going off in the Middle East, starting with the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, and then kind of culminating now with an airstrike that took out a top general in Iran, this General Qasem Soleimani. And we're going to get deep into his background, the operations that he was a part of, other individuals in the Iraq-Iran regime who ended up with Obama in the White House, who have now been helping to orchestrate seemingly these attacks in Iraq on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, which it goes back so much further, and we have so much to cover. So we're going to get right into it. First off, who is General Qasem Soleimani? And this is who he is. He's the shadow Iranian spy chief who helped plan Benghazi. But if you were to take the Washington Post for their word, he is a revered military leader, just like the al-Baghdadi was an austere religious scholar. These fake news media liars love to just, spin it just a little bit to make it sound so much better than it really is. But this guy was not a good guy. And he was a part of a major effort. We talk about here the AmericanReport.org a lot. Mary Fanning, Alan Jones, their incredible reporting efforts in uncovering this go all the way back the last few years. And they've been uncovering what happened. Now imagine this. What if I were to tell you, right, that the former Iranian royal family owns major ports in the United States? And what if I told you that a military project that took the Pentagon over a decade to develop, where you could hide these missile launchers inside of containers, shipping containers, was just suddenly handed over to the Russians under the Obama administration, and then ended up being sold to these individuals? What if I told you the same people that helped Saddam Hussein develop a nuclear weapon, allegedly, were the ones who are involved in all of this right now? we're going to get really deep into a lot of this stuff. And it all has to tie together for us to understand that there is a major effort going on in the Middle East right now, especially being pushed by Iran to undermine the peace and stability that we have so far right now, especially given the fact that President Trump has stepped in. He's taken out ISIS. He's basically created peace in that northern strip of Syria where you had the Kurds fighting with the Syrians, fighting with the Turkish, the people from Turkey there. It really, to me, is incredible what we're going to get into in this episode. And it all starts here, right? I know the people there that were there that day, the people that were in CENTCOM, people that were in AFRICOM, the people who were getting the intel, in real time, who saw that. You guys remember September 11th, 2012, Benghazi, the U.S. Embassy in Libya, in Benghazi, was attacked. And it was an attack that was allegedly led, or seemingly it seems that we can put it all together now, was led by, you guessed it, Qasem Soleimani, the guy who we just took out in an airstrike. Now, why is this important? Because Soleimani was not only a top general in Iran, but he's been the driving force and the major key connection for all the militias in Syria and Iraq. Now, this is a report out of the Washington Examiner that talks about how he was an irreplaceable asset. Qasem Soleimani was Iran's key link to the militias in Syria and Iraq. And you can get more into that. I'll leave a link to the story if you want to read about it. But it's a very small part of what you're going to need to understand as we move forward in this story. But as we go back here to the AmericanReport.org, Mary Fanning, Alan Jones, go check out their work. This talks about the fact that Soleimani led this attack against U.S. forces. We had the intelligence to know it was coming. And there was an active, seemingly stand-down order given by the Obama administration that ended with the loss of 4 American lives and a complete tragedy and a complete failure on a global, stage of the Obama administration to stand up against this Iranian-backed terror in the Middle East. Now, President Trump's called this out many times, talking about the Iranians and how they've been provoking, and it goes so much deeper. And we're going to get into that right now. It starts with a tweet from the Iranian Khamenei, whatever, the Ayatollah, whatever his name is. And what he does is he puts out this tweet after President Trump said that Iran will be held fully responsible for lives lost or damage incurred at any of our facilities. They will pay a very big price. This is not a warning. This is a threat. Happy New Year. And that was on the 1st of this year, 2020. And Khamenei responds this. That guy has tweeted that we see Iran responsible for the events in Baghdad, and we will respond to Iran. First, you can't do anything. Second, if you were logical, and which you are not, this is his words, you'd see that your crimes in Iraq, Afghanistan have made nations hate you. So this is where we kind of begin with the airstrikes that were called in to take out Soleimani. Why would we take out Soleimani? Well, it goes all the way back to, exactly what we're going to talk about right here, which talks about the fact that Obama struck a deal back in 2015 and before with the whole Iran deal through this Qasem Soleimani. And it talks about in detail here in this article from the Hudson Institute, this Lee Smith. It's an interesting read if you want to read it. But it said the negotiations were about something else entirely. They were about what Obama has described as a new geopolitical equilibrium, which would stabilize the Middle East and allow the administration to further minimize its role in the region. The way Obama described it publicly, this new security architecture was going to balance Iran against traditional American allies like Saudi Arabia. However, it soon became apparent that the White House wasn't really balancing at all, but had rather chosen one team over the others, Iran. Obama made his preference for Iran and its allies clear in Lebanon, Syria, and most obviously in Iraq, where the White House ordered airstrikes on ISIS positions that allowed various Iranian-backed outfits under the leadership of Qasem Soleimani to take to Crete. Now, that's just one example of the way Obama basically paved the way for the Iranians to take over after, or in the lead up to and after the Iran deal, the JCPOA, which was a complete abject failure, no matter how you look at it, where we gave billions of dollars in cash and billions of dollars in sanctions relief to this dictatorship that was orchestrating, and it is still actively orchestrating, these terrorist hotspots all across the Middle East and Northern Africa in order to destabilize the region, because that's how they see a strategy for basically taking down the United States. I mean, these are the same people that chant death to America through their streets. But it gets even more interesting and despicable as we go forward. Not to mention, we talk about the fake news, right? We talked about the Washington Post calling him the revered military leader. Well, somebody else picked up really quick. This is at the Enoch or Enoch on Twitter, saying that, or pointing out that we had this New York Times interesting article where they said right before the airstrike that took out Qasem Soleimani, they literally write this massive article talking about hypersonic missiles being a game changer. And in the article, they literally say, what if the former commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Qasem Soleimani, visits Baghdad for a meeting and you know the address? That's exactly what happened, right? Later that day, Iran's general Qasem Soleimani killed in Baghdad airstrike. So he's in Baghdad, obviously helping to not only orchestrate the previous attack on the U.S. embassy there, or whatever you want to call it, the mourners who were grieving mourners who went there to just, voice their opinion by, smashing windows and burning things down, which is just, that's the way the media likes to portray these things. But you look at this and you actually see very quickly that there could have been some, sort of backdoor communication for this. And you have to ask yourself, why would somebody try to get word out to the Iranians that they were about to have one of their top leaders taken down by a hypersonic missile strike? I don't know, but this is definitely a show of force to all the people in control of these areas, or the people that are working inside of these areas who think that they have control when they really don't. And that's really important to understand as we move forward in this. But another thing I wanted to point out before we get too deep into a lot of the bigger stuff is Lisa Page too here on Twitter, right? Talking about this airstrike, saying, good riddance, but also God help us. My mother immigrated from Iran in her 20s to forge a better life for herself. Iran is smart and strategic and all over the world. Iran isn't an irrational actor, but they have the pride of a 5,000-year-old culture. I fear they are going to hit back in a way to remind America that that they are a real and independent country. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that she's wrong, but there's just so much of this disgusting anti-American, sick, hidden messaging that's put in these Twitter posts, especially given the fact that Lisa Page, obviously, her mom immigrated from Iran. You have Peter Strzok, her lover boy, who grew up basically speaking Persian and going to school in the Middle East. I believe it started in Iran and then was in Saudi Arabia, and was one of the key players in facilitating the Iran deal and other deals in that area, which completely undermine the security of our country and our assets, our military assets in that region at large. So you got to remember and take that into account with what we talk about with Obama and what he did with strategically aligning with Qasem Soleimani in Iran and helping them basically overthrow a lot of these more moderate Islamic governments. So, and trying to replace them with extreme ones like the Iranians have. So this is something that's interesting. Now, I'm not advocating war. I'm just trying to get through all of the facts here and try to put them all together and understand what's actually going on. So we get into that, and then we get into this. The U.S. has arrested a Hadi al-Amari. Now, this guy was in charge of the Badr Corps chief. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names, but it is what it is. Terror leader. He was a terror leader who met with Obama in the White House. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. Here he is, right here. There's Obama sitting there. There's Hadi Amari. He was just happened to be invited to the White House. Nothing to see here, just again. But U.S. Special Forces actually picked up this Amari. And why is Amari so important? Well, I'm going to talk about this big story, this Gulf tanker shipping weapons to Iranian-backed terrorists in Iraq. Now, what does this have to do with America and Qasem Soleimani and everything that we're talking about here? Well, it has everything to do with that. Thanks again to the AmericanReport.org, Mary Fanning, Alan Jones, for their incredible reporting on this entire situation. But what we seem to have seen here is a consolidated effort that started with the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians all getting together, basically forming this strategic alliance and trying to bolster Iran's destabilizing effect in the Middle East as a way of undermining the U.S. Power globally. That seems to be what we're looking at here, but it goes so much deeper than that. According to my sources, people I've talked to, including Mary and others, it seems as though that you have this pretty big story that nobody really talks about here, but Amiri plays a very key and critical role in all of this, and I'll get into exactly what his role is, along with Qassam Soleimani's. But here you have to understand a few different things. This Gulftainer is a company, and I'm going to give you some important information about this. This is an actual little piece of information that I got from one of my sources here, actually, and I want to read it with you. But it says, a former senior official with the coalition embassy in Iraq has confirmed that the report, which was published in Arabic by electronic newspaper Al-Alim Al-Jadid on February 10th, 2015, charges that Gulftainer is moving weapons to terrorist groups, the Badr Brigades and Asaib al-Ahaq. Al-Alim Al-Jadid describes itself as an electronic newspaper free from influence of partisan and sectarian and owners. Gulftainer's 35-year lease with Port Canaveral was negotiated in secret and then approved by the Obama administration without a national security review, that would be the CFIUS review, despite Port Canaveral's strategic location and its extreme proximity to some of the U.S. government's most sensitive space and defense installations. Gulftainer operates the Iraq Container Terminal inside Iraq's deepwater Qasr port, located on the Persian Gulf near Kuwait. The Badr Brigades and Asaib al-Haq are backed by Iran's extremist Islamic regime. Both Shiite militant groups are listed as terrorist organizations by the UAE government. According to the report, privately owned Gulftainer and its corporate parent, the Crescent Group, are based in the UAE. Hadi al-Amiri, the guy that we're talking about, right, the guy that's in this Gateway Pundit article and is seen in the White House with Obama, leads the Badr organization, a Shiite political faction in Iraq associated with the Badr Brigades. Al-Amiri is the former Iraq transport minister and likely has deep connections with port officials and shipping companies. Now, this guy was just arrested, right? And you got to understand, the family that helped, I believe, get the nuclear technology to a guy like Saddam Hussein. Now, of course, that what you have to understand is, yes, we had President Bush come forward and say there were weapons of mass destruction. Then we went in and they weren't there. It's hard to say, even today, whether or not that the technology was there and then removed from the country, because it would make sense if you have Al-Amiri, who is the former Iraqi transport minister and basically a big player in that country, could have been involved with this family called the Jafar family. Now, what's the Jafar family? That's the former royal family of, you guessed it, Iran, who happens to be, I believe, the either owner or majority stakeholder in, you guessed it, the Gulftainer Group, which owns, you guessed it again, a major part of the port of Canaveral through a deal that was pushed secretly through by Obama and then not required to go under a CFIUS review. And I believe this is still, according to my sources, they still own this port today. Now, this gets into even more disturbing things, right? Here's just a quick thing I want to share. This is Major General Paul Vallely and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Haney, and I want to share their letter that they wrote here, which talk about the facts surrounding this nuclear, the nuclear weapons that may be in Iran, and the fact that Iran may be actually nuclear active as we speak, which seems very likely. But here are their facts. They say, the coalition of Russia, China, and North Korea have assisted Iran in achieving a nuclear-capable weapon since the 1979 sanctions have been in place. Iran has had free rein to develop their nuclear weapons program unabated. This weapons program was under the guise of a nuclear energy program for domestic energy production. China and North Korea, during this same time frame, developed their nuclear programs, maturing some to include land-based and sea-based weapon systems, testing their entire launch, delivery, and detonation process through actual nuclear detonations. Iranian government observers, research scientists, and senior military officials have been on site in North Korea for all their tests of nuclear component systems. In essence, Iran has had the benefit of having North Korea essentially do their development and testing for them. Iran was able to test their launch system, i.e. the Shahab series of launch and delivery vehicles, and the attendant guidance and control systems. Russia, China, and North Korea always had the latitude and time to develop and test warhead design, fissionable material, and detonation testing. Iran participated on site in most of the scheduled testing. The coalition of Russia, China, and North Korea have assisted Iran along the pathways for acquisition of a nuclear weapon, from system requirements, specifications, prototyping, development, and acquisition. Iran has never had to go it alone. The coalition support them 100%. It is now clear that since 2009, the Obama administration has crafted a plan that guarantees Iran will have a nuclear weapon, and the devil is in the details. For instance, the copy of the agreement handed out in English for the American delegation did not fully replicate the copy handed out in Farsi for the Iranians. The American delegation never mentioned this to the West, and especially not to the American people nor Congress. The Iranian delegation read both the English and Farsi worded agreements and declared that while they agreed with the one in Farsi, the one in English was not the same and was in no way acceptable to them. And in addition, there are more devils in the details, and these are in the side agreements between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency. We now know one of those arrangements calls for Iran to actually be its own inspecting body. The fox gets to be the hen house security team, with Obama's statement to Russian President Dmitry Medvedev in 2012. Incoming President Vladimir Putin knew he had the green light on a host of issues, with the now infamous live mic incident, where he says, I can do more in the next election, after the next election. So, and then this all ties back, obviously, the green light was not just for missiles defense, but it also applied to all things Iran. We know this because the Iranian Quds Force commander, Qasem Soleimani, was seen in Moscow despite a worldwide travel ban just prior to Secretary of State John Kerry testifying before Congress on the agreement reached with Iran. So you have to remember here, and it goes on, I'm going to read this last one. Being proven communist sympathizers, John Kerry, Obama, and his henchwoman, Iranian-born Valerie Jarrett, it is demonstrable that their plan has always been to aid that cabal. Prime negotiator John Kerry, who has his very own place in communist Vietnam's war memorial with a photo, recently admitted that his daughter married an Iranian American who has extensive family ties to Iran. Incidentally, Kerry's chief counterpart in the nuclear deal of negotiations, Mohammad Javad Zarif's son, was the best man at the wedding. I mean, so listen, you have to remember that we've known all of this stuff about these connections. We have Al-Ameri connected to Qasem Soleimani, who's connected to the Obama administration, Valerie Jarrett, John Kerry running a shadow diplomacy, trying to advise Iran on how to basically circumvent the U.S. Foreign policy. You have to understand that these people have been actively, in my opinion, according to people who've come forward, including these foreign military officials, saying that, look, this is a very bad deal for the United States. Not to mention that if you put Gulf Tanner in connection to this, the Jafar family, right, and then you take into account that was how they got control of these ports in the United States, and that then you put that on top of the fact that there's this whole system called the NLOS long-range missile system. And what is it? NLOS is an acronym. It stands for non-line of sight technology. It took about over a decade for the Pentagon to develop this technology, where you could actually store, or actually you could have these non-line of sight missiles that could be very mobile and transportable. Then you put that in reference to the other technology that was taken from the United States by the Russians and then sold to countries like the Iranians with regard to this K-Club system of delivery, or Club K system of delivery. You take this missile system and you can hide it inside of an easily transportable, hardened shipping container that has special, probably metals used to prevent any type of detection, right? And then these, as it shows here in this article, these shipping containers can be put on trucks or trains or boats, and they can basically be anywhere. So you have the Iranian, royal family controlling a port in America after, helping to facilitate this deal of secret missile technology, which basically could, sneak missiles in through shipping containers into United States ports. Could this be something that has happened for quite some time? I don't know. I put it to you guys, as we send thousands of more troops to the Middle East, I have to ask these questions, and I hope that we dive deeper into it. I hope you guys dive deeper into it and try to understand how the Gulf Tainer connects to this NLOS and the Club K weapon systems, and how that all connects back to what we're talking about here with Soleimani being taken out in an airstrike, and they have the U.S. Special Forces arresting this al-Amari. And before we go, don't forget, we have Hillary Clinton now being appointed the Chancellor of Queen's University in Belfast, Northern Ireland, for the next 5 years. You can't make this up. She just accepted a post in Northern Ireland for the next 5 years. Well, who's going to be president for the next 5 years? President Trump. Who knows indictments are coming for her and her criminal cohorts? Hillary Clinton. So what does she do? She goes over to Northern Ireland. Now, I know people go, oh, Ireland doesn't have an extradition treaty. And then a lot of people, I think it's that Northern Ireland does because they're associated with the United Kingdom. So they have a different set of extradition, whatever it is. Do you know that this is just another play on their part? Because in Hillary's mind, I think she's playing this out. She's playing playing it out as far as what it would look like on the outside topically for the American people to have her extradited from a foreign country as she serves in Belfast, Ireland. So Northern Ireland, whatever. These people are running. These people are scared. These people are rats. As Andrew McCabe now has come out and said, he lied to the FBI about Wall Street Journal leak, and he's sorry about it. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it for treason. You have to go. You're going to be indicted. You're going to go to jail. Then you're going to go on trial. And then if the jury finds you guilty, you're going to go to prison or worse. Because these people betrayed our country. They're all running scared like rats. Hillary Clinton runs out to Ireland because she knows the optics of it are going to be terrible if President Trump tries to extradite her back to this country, and that it's going to cause civil unrest and all that stuff. So don't forget, though, President Trump just tweeting out 16 hours ago, the same American flag we've seen on the Q boards for quite some time, just another confirmation of Q, and the fact that we're the ones who are on the money here. The fake news media are the ones lying to you, and that's why they try to suppress this content and keep it away from you. So that's pretty much where I'm going to wrap it up. A few more things before we go. Watch these videos, share them on your social media. There's a content suppression algorithm. They don't want you to see this because they want you to take everything the fake news says and not even ever think any otherwise. Just listen to the fake news and shut your mouth. That's what they want. But we're breaking that paradigm. We're doing it by getting content out here. And when you guys come watch these videos and share them, they give you a lot of information. If you're scratching and going, what is QAnon? What's he talking about? Watch this video right here. And leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below, because I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. Don't forget, come over here and download the Brave browser if you guys haven't tried it yet. It's a great way to support the channel. It's free. There's a link in the description. What is the Brave browser? It's an internet browser that's better than any other. Better than Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, whatever you're using, because it blocks the ads and it makes your internet experience that much better. You guys should definitely go try it out. Use the link in the description. Download the Brave browser. They'll make a contribution to this channel when you download it, install it, and run it on your computer. So it's a win-win situation. It's free. Go check it out. Use the link in the description. Also, you can come find me over here on Twitter at JustinFormedU, a place where we can connect. That's a great way to get connected outside the channel. Also, I have JustinFormedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. You should go check that out. I have a backup channel over here on BitChute. I'm always telling people to go subscribe to BitChute.com/JustinFormedTalk. Links to everything will be in the description. Also, you can help out by coming over here to Patreon, Patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website, and all you have to do is come here. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. And look, you know what they're doing to this channel. These big tech censors are trying to put any channel that's competing with the fake news out of business. So you guys coming here and supporting me on Patreon is what keeps this channel alive. They've taken away all the monetization, and it makes it almost impossible to get funding. But you guys and your support have kept it going. So thank you for your support there. I also have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to everything that we've talked about here, including all of the articles, will be in the description. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Today, I want to share a very short verse, but a very poignant one with you. And this is out of the book of Psalms, Psalm 62, verse 9 through 12. And I share these words with you now, and we'll talk about them in a minute. It says, "Men are only a vapor, exalted men an illusion. On a balance scale they go up. Together they weigh less than a vapor. Place no trust in oppression or false hope in robbery. If wealth increases, pay no attention to it. God has spoken once. I have heard this twice. Strength belongs to God, and faithful love belongs to you, Lord. For you repay each according to his works." And that's it. That's the simple message there. Remember that we're only a vapor. We're only a blade of grass that gets sheared and then goes into the wind. There is nothing that is really, and especially I should say the exalted men. We're all just a vapor in this time, men and women I should say. And remember that we should only place trust in God. We should place no trust in the oppression of the wicked against the righteous by the wicked, I should say. And we should place no false hope in robbery. And if we do get more, we should put that to God and remember to honor God by saying that our faithful love belongs to you, Lord, because you repay our righteous actions accordingly. And that's really my message to all of you guys out there. And I hope you take it and I hope it helps you. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Hit it, bop it, twist it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys want to see more content like this. That's it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.